Next, we'll have a report on the impact of automation on employment. And Jennifer?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good afternoon, members of the committee. Jennifer Ward, Director of Government Relations. I'm just going to introduce this item. So we're pleased to bring this presentation to you as a follow-up to both our chair's request as well as part of a sort of a series of presentations WRCOG staff is bringing to this committee on a variety of different topics related to economic development, some emerging issues that cities need to keep in mind, emerging technologies, anything that can kind of collectively impact our future. Homelessness will be an item we'll be bringing up in the next couple of months as well. But today, I'm pleased to introduce two esteemed representatives from one of our local universities, the University of Redlands, who are going to provide a summary of their research on the impacts of automation, specifically to our region's economy in the context of the national scale. So we have two individuals here today from Redlands, and our speaker is going to be Dr. Johannes Mornius, from the University of Redlands Institute for Spatial Economic Analysis, and his colleague, Mr. Christian Stack, is also here. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Mornius. Here you go.
Madam Chair, committee members, it's a great pleasure to be here. I feel really honored to have that opportunity to talk to you today. The presentation that I'm going to give is a 10-minute version of about a 90-minute presentation that I normally give to interested parties, so it will be a little bit of a tour de force through some data and some examples. The Institute for Spatial Economic Analysis at the University of Redlands is a completely self-financed institute. We finance all of our research and everything ourselves, and Christian Stark is a colleague that helps us with doing some of the consulting side of this. You have all heard of the drivers of automation. The most prominent are probably artificial intelligence and mobile robotics, but there are actually 6 different drivers. And that's unique in history because, if you think of the steam engine, digitalization, and so on, we always had just one main driver. We never had 6 drivers concurrently mature within, this like a relatively short period of time. So, automation has always been good for the economy overall. It was a net creator of jobs, but it was not necessarily always a net creator of jobs in a particular sector. And if you look at the chart that you're seeing right now, the blue line shows you output in manufacturing going up, going up, going up. At the same time, employment in manufacturing going down, down, and down. So this is not a big problem as long as you have another sector that can actually support and absorb the employment that's set free. Unfortunately, this time automation enters the service sector. The service sector is a large sector in the economy, and so the robots kind of like escaped manufacturing and went to the service sector, and that will have effects that no one, has any historical data for. You've seen it yourself. You go to the bank, instead of 5 employees, you see 2, the rest are machines. You see it at the self-checkout in the grocery. You see it at McDonald's, instead of 6 cashiers, you have just 1. And here's a picture of the Amazon warehouse of the future. Clearly, you don't need any light anymore as soon as the robots have taken over. So an Amazon warehouse today looks like this. You still find people in there, but there's a lot of robots already. Amazon currently increases its robot use in warehouses by 260% per year. They're now roughly at 100,000, not quite at 100,000 yet. So once you reach these numbers, the effects will be interesting. So Amazon tomorrow has a warehouse of tomorrow has no employees anymore. We're in the prime region of logistics. We're one of the biggest logistics center in the United States. The big red dots in the Inland Empire indicate, how intensely we actually depend on logistics relative to other regions. And so, like some of you may have seen this video from Amazon Go, where it's basically a shop that you go in, grab everything you want to walk out. You don't talk to everyone anymore. You don't need a cashier because it's all automatically taken care of. Good news is apparel manufacturing will come back to the United States, but it will be a jobless recovery. Because, like now you finally, 10 years ago, people would have told you that it's absolutely impossible technically to have robots sewing together fabric. Not a big deal anymore. And so, still technically complex, but doable, I should say. That's a patent also filed by Amazon to produce apparel on demand. So what does that mean in terms of numbers? So here, we don't have numbers on service robots. There's just not a separate category. The only thing that we have is household robots. This is the deployment of household robots in the world, increasing by about 70% per year right now and predicted to continue to do so for the next 2-3 years. If that continues like that, the dotted orange line is the scenario that we're looking at. If they fall back to growth rates that are similar to those that we see in the manufacturing sector, the orange solid line will be the relevant number to look at. Just for reference, the blue dotted line on the very bottom near the axis, that's robot use in manufacturing. So that should give you a little bit of an idea of what's, these are numbers that are already coming. So if you look at the jobs effect on manufacturing, then what you see is, without any increases in automation, we would see jobs for, just written forward from the last 4 or 5 years, continue in the green dotted line. The blue dotted line, you recognize that from the previous slide, that's a manufacturing robots. If robots are going to be as productive in the future as they were in the past, and there's actually no reason to assume that's not the case, manufacturing employment will go down to a tiny fraction, just following the red path. So why does that matter for Riverside so much? Well, there's a huge structural change. We need to, regardless whether we come out neutral in terms of employment, we will have to have an enormous effort to restructure our workforce. These are calculations that we did at our institute for Long Beach, and so it shows you the sectoral composition of jobs in Long Beach. Left-hand side is what we have right now. Right-hand side, the column is what would be 2036 without additional job creation, but showing you if all the technically automatable jobs would actually be automated. And you see, while healthcare and education, pretty much preserves its size, logistics gets butchered. Income inequality is another issue that will, be strongly affected because, the ones with the lowest level of education will be the ones highest affected, and those that have money and have skills will actually benefit strongly because it's a huge wealth opportunity, of course. So what does this mean for our local economy here? Well, we actually crunched the numbers for all of the United States and looked at every MSA and metropolitan statistical area and looked at how much they will be affected. And zooming into California, well, the red big dot is us. That's not good news if it's red and it's big. We're the most vulnerable metro in California to job automation. We're the 4th most vulnerable metro in the nation. 63% of the jobs in our metro area could be automated in the next 20 years. So, and for those of you who come from cities, you now may find your dot. If you're a red dot, then you're at very high risk. If you're a gray dot, you're just about average, and if you're blue, you're relatively safe. So, but even when we say relatively safe, you only have a 50% risk of job losses. If you're red, you're 60 and above. So we will see restructuring. I've been born and raised in West Germany. I moved to East Germany right after the wall came down. I've seen what it means to retrain a workforce, and it's not going to look pretty, especially for the older generation. We're in the Sun Belt. When you read your report on homelessness, be aware, aside from us, there will be plenty of other places in the United States that will see homelessness induced through automation. That's almost like, you can take this as a guarantee. Just think about what that means for Riverside County. And so, because it'll all, come here. So specifically, what is it what we recommend for cities to do right now? The first thing is really understanding what is your specific sector, like a risk that Riverside is facing. Riverside is one of the 3 places in Southern California that actually has a unique opportunity, because only Riverside, Redlands, and Palm Springs have the potential for headquarter functions. All other places will not actually have that ability to develop that. So, the cities, only those 3, for those 3 cities, it's of paramount importance to really think about it right now, because when others start thinking about it, it may actually, you lose your competitive edge. So the first thing is evaluation risk by sector. Think about what it means for your the impact on your local taxes. Think about like admitting another warehouse to be built here. There's no jobs in that warehouse in the future anymore. The only thing that you'll get is your property tax and maybe a little bit of the utility bill extra from the taxes that you charge on utilities. But with that electricity amount that you're getting, people will be much better off actually putting solar panels on the roofs there. So think about property tax and that's it, or invent new tax methods strictly. So every decision from now on that you make should, from our perspective, really be driven by the knowledge what's going to come in the future. That also has public safety implications. Is your public safety sector ready for the challenges that are coming? And is your the educational system, the educational facilities that exist right now ready to actually handle this enormous challenge? So, as I said, I think we really need to start today. And I just want to, give a few sample initiatives that you may think of in the future. Aside from really gathering more information, would happily help you with that. Think about reducing your exposure to the industries with high automation probability. I'm also part of the Brookings research team that you've just listened to a couple of weeks ago. So I'm fully aware of what you've heard there. So, and they're pretty much, this study shows pretty much exactly the same thing. Logistics is a problematic sector for the future. If Riverside actually appoints what we call a chief automation officer, right now the county, a person that finds out how Riverside can automate ahead of time and save money, you can actually rank in resources and save resources right now that you will need in the future. To address all these issues that are going to face. Finally, third, think about your homeless project. I know you're talking about that, and think about benefiting from it through an automation research and diffusion center, locally or nearby by a research university. You have UCR here, which is a world-renowned research place. So these are options how Riverside could actually benefit. So if you'd like to, discuss that further with us, we'd be happy and interested in talking with you. Thank you very much.